Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to another episode of Manifesting Muslimah. I'm your host, Zara Pedersen, and in today's episode, we're going to talk about why failure is actually never an option for you. But before we get into that, very quickly, for those of you who are just listening to the audio on Spotify, and for those of you who are watching on YouTube, or even if you're watching the video on Spotify, you may notice that I'm actually holding a tiny little microphone, which is kind of new. And I'm doing that because I've been experiencing some technical stuff when I use my other microphone, like my bigger microphone, and recording audio separately versus and the video separately. So, and then combining the two. And I find that it feels like to me when I'm editing that even though they're filmed at the same speed and whatever, the sound comes up delayed. And it's really a frustrating thing in the editing process because I have to go in every sort of like 5 to 10 seconds and kind of cut the sound in. Anyway, it's a little strange. If you're listening on audio specifically, and you, I would love to hear from you if there's like a huge sound difference, if this is completely unacceptable sound quality or if this is still okay, if the sound quality is still good. The main difference, I suppose, with this tiny little microphone is not necessarily the sound quality, because it is I think it's a røde mic, or like a rode, I think people call it because they don't speak Danish. So it is a good quality microphone, but when you hold, like when it is a handheld, there is more chance of disturbances. For instance, I don't know if I do this, maybe you can hear like it'll pick up when I start like moving my hand. So I will try to sort of stand as still as possible with my hand. But do let me know if it's completely unacceptable. Then I'll try to find some other ways to record the podcast and the video at the same time without experiencing the difficulties technically. But yeah, do let me know. Going into the new year strong. Yeah. Well, you know, it is what it is. We're just doing our best with it. Hello, my darling. We've got a little guest today. For those of you watching the video, this is my kitten Zucchini, my little pumpkin. He is blind. If you're looking at his eyes, you can see that they're like, both of them are blue, but not blue because the pupils are blue, but blue because he's blind. And he was a little street cat, and someone brought him into the veterinary clinic where I work, and I just fell in love with him. And they weren't going to adopt him. They were just like, oh, I found this cat and he looks a little bit sick and a little sad. And then we discovered that, yeah, he's blind. He's not going to regain his sight. And I just felt like I can't put him back out in the streets because he's not going to survive. So I decided that I was going to adopt him. And so now he's here. He's my little baby. I wasn't about to cry. That sounded like I had like a frog in my throat, but it was just literally I had to clear my throat. I'm not crying or anything. But no, so he's my little kitty boy and I love him. I'm also, I don't know if you can see him in the camera. You can, right there. If you're all again watching on video, you'll see a little black and white cat sitting on the chair behind me. That is Tremolino. I'm fostering. I haven't adopted him, although I would really like to. I think it's a little bit too much to have 4 animals in a tiny studio apartment. But he is actually, he actually already has owners, but the owners are very neglectful, and he came to us in a state of neglect. And it was really, really sad and completely heartbreaking. And it wasn't the first animal that they had brought to us showing real severe signs of neglect. And with the first one, it was a big pit bull. And we, you know, the options, I'm sorry, you're getting a little story time. You know what? Why not? You know, hear a little bit about what I do outside of this. But so it was a pit bull. Her name was Becky, and she came in completely malnourished. She was skin and bones and very sick, had lots, like, it was just absolutely horrendous. And our option was to either, you know, help her get better and feed her and teach her owners how to do that, and then return her to them hoping they would do better, or euthanasia, because she's the big dog and there's very small chances of anybody being able to adopt a dog like that. And she was also not socialized, so she had chances of being aggressive, but she was really actually a sweetheart. But it was just because the owners didn't know what they were doing with her. And we actually took a chance with them and were like, listen, we can either call the police on you and have the dog removed and euthanized, or you can do your best and you'll have to come and check up, like give us the checkups and stuff on the dog. And they've actually been good with her and they've brought her back to health, alhamdulillah. But then when she started doing better, they brought in Tremolino, and he was in just as severe a state of neglect as the dog came in. And that was when we both kind of put our foot down and we was like, no, we can't send this cat back to them. So now I'm fostering him. So if you need a cat, yes, I'm putting it out there. If you need a sweet cat, he's about 8 years old and he's absolutely adorable. He's so loving, so sweet. I'll happily foster him and fly him out to you, but, hopefully at your cost. I know that sounds really weird, but I'm just trying to give him a good home. And in the meantime, if you want to sponsor him or something, let me know as well, because it is a little bit pricey to have 4 animals all of a sudden. But, that is a responsibility that I have taken upon myself. But we are still looking for a good home for him. So if somebody wants him, let me know. And I'm in Sicily, by the way, in case you were wondering. Okay, now that you've got like a whole backstory of all the animals in the house currently, excluding myself, let's get into today's topic, because I feel like this is a perfect topic to start the new year off with, because a lot of you, as I mentioned in the previous episode, are going to start off this new year with a lot of new motivation and dreams, wishes, goals, whatever. And that's fine. If it works for you, great. Okay. As long as you're not, elevating the New Year's to like something that it shouldn't be, like, oh my God, it's the New Year, so that has a special meaning or anything like that. We've already discussed this in the previous episode. If you didn't listen to that or watch that, go and check that out, because then I'll let you know my thoughts around that over there. But seeing as a lot of you will still go into this new year with like new motivation and whatever, I thought it would be really appropriate, or very appropriate, for us to talk about failure. Failure specifically, how we as Muslims should think about failure and how we should approach it. And in my opinion, and the way that I understand Allah and Islam, why failure is never an option when you are Muslim and you have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So let's get into it. Number one, this specifically, when it comes to failure, I am specifically talking about when you have Allah beside you, when you're fully believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And while I don't doubt that any of you believe in Allah, I have, of course, spoken to quite a few of you in the last sort of year that I've been in doing this Manifesting Muslimah, and with clients and members in the membership group. And one thing I've noticed is that while we can believe in something, our trust and ability to free fall into Allah can be two very separate things, and we can almost sort of neglect one over the other. And the problem with doing that is that when we want to do something, failure suddenly becomes an option. Whereas if you fully surrender to Allah and you have that tawakkul and it is completely on point, failure is never an option, because you know and understand how Allah will react to you and how Allah will support and guide you and be that safety net that you don't know or can't see is there, but you just know it's there. You can't see it, but you know it's there. So let's talk a little bit about this. And it comes into very much to play about like your relationship with Allah and your understanding of Allah. And this is also why in a lot of my content, you'll hear that I talk about, having a personal relationship with Allah, the way that you like creating that intimate knowing and understanding between you and Allah. It is so very, very important, because that is the thing that'll bring about this level of trust where no matter what you do, failure is never an option. So when we believe in Allah fully, and we believe in him with so much love and trust and tawakkul, to the point where, he can throw a bus at us, and we'd still be like, yeah, okay, let it hit me, because I trust that whatever will happen, it is meant to happen, and Allah does it for the best of my interest, or in the best of my interests. That no matter what comes, it's like Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. Now, if you've been in my membership, you'll probably have heard me say this, that my biggest goal in life is that no matter what comes to me, my first word will always be Alhamdulillah. That I have that kind of relationship with Allah, that no matter what happens in my life, my first thought, my first word, my first feeling is Alhamdulillah. And that is the level of relationship and deen and trust and tawakkul I want to have and I crave in this dunya with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's my personal goal. I'm trying. I feel like I'm kind of good at it. But of course, I'm human, I make mistakes, and I have insecurities and all sorts of stuff like the next person. So I'm not 100% there just yet. So this is why I'm saying it's a goal in my life. And I also feel like it is something that needs to be attained, constantly practiced, or, it's not something that just you get it and then it stays. You have to work on it, okay? So, even if I feel like I'm good at it, for a period of time, something might happen and then it'll kind of knock me off course a little bit, and then I'll get back into it, inshallah. But, so it's something that I'll constantly have to work on and strive for. And the reason for that is because that I want that goal is because it shows my level of trust in action towards Allah, my level of tawakkul in Allah. Because when I, regardless of what happens to me, immediately say Alhamdulillah, or think Alhamdulillah, or have that feeling of Alhamdulillah, then that is me in action in this dunya, submitting myself to Allah's will and showing Allah my way of another way of worship towards Him, where I say, I will not try to control your will or tell you when you are doing something that it is wrong, or that I don't trust that what you're doing to me is meant to happen for me. So I call it another type of worship, because of course salah, fasting, pilgrimage, all of these things are ways of worship, but so are our actions, right? And the way that we live our lives. So are our thoughts and our intentions and the way that we approach life in this dunya. All of these things are acts of worship, and the things and the way that we approach it, right? So if we approach it with a level of fear that we're going to fail and Allah is not going to want us to give these things, that is you not participating in a specific act of worship of tawakkul, right? Where you're not having that trust and that level of faith that Allah will catch you and that He will see you through. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through and through the Quran, has sent so many reminders to us of how He loves us and wants to support us and guide us, and He wants the best for us, not just in this life but in the akhirah. And he I forgot the word. Brain fart. No, but he basically repeats this. He affirms this time and time again, because he knows the way that the mind that the human mind works, and the way that shaitan works as well. That shaitan will feel our fears or our hesitation or our doubts, even if it's just for a second or like a split second, and he will pounce on that, and he will make it feel bigger and greater than it actually is, and he will remove us from that part of our faith where we have that level of tawakkul. So Allah knows this. This is why He keeps repeating and reaffirming it throughout the Quran, that He wants the best for us, and that the success is with the believers, the ultimate success, even if we may have been wronged in the past, even if there's a lesson, even if there's a hardship, that ultimately the success will come after it. This is a promise from Allah to us, and that He's willing to forgive, and that He's willing to show mercy and compassion on us time and time again, despite our wrongdoings. So when we know this about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, why should we not embrace this world and everything that we do in full trust and tawakkul, and understanding that no matter what comes our way, Allah's got our back. Allah's got us. He is that safety net, as I said, that we might not be able to see, but we absolutely trust is there for us. And when we do that, we actually remove failure as an option for us in this dunya. Failure does not exist. Failure is an illusion that, as for Muslims, let me just preface that real quick. For Muslims, failure is an illusion, because if you truly believe in Allah and you worship Allah and you follow His guidance, then failure is not an option, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to succeed, and He will always guide and support you. He will always come to your defense. He will always come and save you from situations. He will always come and guide you back to something that is better. So failure is never an option. It is as simple as that. It's just not a thing. It's just not a viable option for us as Muslims. Now, if we're not Muslims, failure is absolutely an option. Failure is absolutely an option. If we don't follow Allah, if we're not praying, if we're denying Allah, and we refuse to listen, and we allow shaitan to remove us from the things that are good for us, or, divert us down different paths that are not helpful for us, absolutely failure is an option. But not just whether or not that exists in this dunya, but also in the akhirah. We know this, the ultimate failure, hell, right? So that is the ultimate failure, but also in this dunya, because you don't have the creator supporting you and guiding you. You are left like a bumbling idiot trying to figure things out on your own, or through the help of shaitan or other humans, who all of them are extremely flawed, right? So you can choose to be guided and led by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where you are guided by the ultimate creator, the magnificent, the one who knows everything, who sees everything, who hears everything, and trust that He knows what's best for us. Or we can or we can go what is going on with my speech today? Or we can go in the opposite direction and say, but I don't trust that Allah wants the best for me. Or I don't know, because in the past, or like, what if it comes with hardship? Or what if there's a trial? But last time I prayed and then He removed. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah that He did that, because we don't know what's best for ourselves. So if Allah does that, it's because there is good on the other side of it. And if we are not able to do that, we're essentially saying, I don't trust Allah's plan for me. I don't trust what Allah wants for me. I don't trust that Allah wants the good for me. I don't trust that Allah can give me what I desire. I don't trust that with Allah comes success. And then you start doing things that perhaps you shouldn't be doing. Maybe you are consulting with people like tarot readers, fortune tellers, things like that. Maybe you're seeking out, witch doctors, things like that. I've heard stories. Maybe you start trusting more what people are telling you than what Allah has told you already for facts. And then you start following those things, even when you kind of know you shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be doing that. It's not going to give you the same results. You might get momentary success, but ultimate success, is that what we're going to gamble? That is essentially what we're gambling on, right? So what it comes down to essentially for us is creating such a level of trust in Allah, such a level of tawakkul in Allah, that we know, regardless of what we face in this dunya, whether it might be something that we initially deem to be bad or harmful or stressing or whatever, that if Allah has willed it to be, if Allah has given it permission to be, Allah allowed it to be in your life, then it is because it is there for a reason. And sometimes it is not immediate rizq. Sometimes it is not immediate peace and less stress and whatever. Sometimes it is a lesson so that we can grow and overcome and be better. But ultimately, it is the becoming better. That is the ultimate outcome of what Allah has put in front of us. And that is what we need to focus on. So I know I've mentioned it to a few of you before, but I'll mention the story again. One of the times that it was really tested for me was when I was going through my divorce. And alhamdulillah, I'm so lucky to have a dad that, like me, has quite a bit of a hippy-dippy mentality. He is the ultimate hippie, and I'm the one who's like following in his footsteps here. And I remember when I was talking to my dad about the divorce and how heartbroken I was at the time, and I felt so lost and depressed and all of these things. And my dad would say, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. And I would always be like, what do you mean, Alhamdulillah? Like, I'm going through a divorce. This is awful. And my dad would be like, what if Allah wants you to go through a divorce, and you're going to go through a divorce? You can't stop it. Or you can, and you can be miserable. You can go back to your husband and learn the lesson the hard way, by continuing to insist upon something that Allah is trying to take you away from. And he kept sort of reaffirming to me, Alhamdulillah, khair inshallah, Alhamdulillah. And it took a moment, but I was really, at that moment, I had nothing else really to sort of lose, and so it was relatively easy for me, but like it took a little moment, but relatively easy otherwise for me to kind of jump on that, because I was like, you know what? Yeah, I guess, I was losing everything around me anyway. So why shouldn't I just be like, you know what? I'm just going to trust that something's going to come at the end of it. And Alhamdulillah, the moment I started resting more in that, and trusting Allah and being grateful for what Allah was doing instead of trying to fight it and being like questioning it and stressing out about it, that was the moment that he also started opening up the world of opportunities for me again. And I started being inspired to do things that before I couldn't even think 2 minutes ahead. And he started inspiring me with ideas of what to do. He started opening possibilities and opportunities for me that weren't opening before. And he started showing me the compassion and the love and the mercy in my everyday life that I was looking for, little signs here and there that showed me he was with me all along. And that was that little bit of light at the end of the tunnel that I kept aiming for. And every time I'd wake up and I'd see that little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, and actively just focusing on that and taking a step a little bit closer to that and a little bit more closer to that, every day I'd wake up and it'd be a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger, because I was getting closer to that point where Allah was like, you see, I'm here. There is no failure. Failure isn't an option, but you got to trust me. And even though this thing is difficult, there's a reason. There's something on the other side of it that is important for you to get to, which is why I am taking you through it. I'm there with you if you want me to be, but it is up to us to be conscious of God. It is up to us to remember Allah in those times. It is up to us to choose whether or not we want to trust in Allah and free fall into it. And instead of resisting and fighting all the way through, especially when times are hard, especially when it's difficult, especially when it hurts, if we choose to keep resisting and fighting, the longer we're going to stay in that position, the longer we're going to postpone it, the longer we're going to stay in a situation that feels helpless and hopeless to us. With Allah is hope. Without Him, you're hopeless. That is what most people who I was actually, another little story time. I'm going to tell you about what happened this morning to me. I was out walking my dogs, and I met this guy who works at the local supermarket here, and, we're friendly with each other. And he said to me, he was feeling a little sad today. And I said, oh, what do you mean sad? He's a young kid, by the way. He's like maybe 24 or 25. And very kind, usually quite a happy guy and whatever. And this morning he was like, yeah, I'm a little bit sad today. And I said, oh, that's really sad. Well, like, why, what's going on? And he said, well, his ex-girlfriend had been here over the holidays and he'd got to see her, and now she went back to the north of Italy and he's going to miss her, and he was really sad to see her go again. And I was like, okay, well, do you still love her? Do you want to be with her? And he's like, yeah, I do actually, but I think I blew it. And we were talking a little bit back and forth, and me being me, I was like, you should just move there. It's not like, and I don't mean this with anything but love, but like, he works full time at the supermarket and then he plays football with his friends once a week. And he said to me several times before that he's not super happy with his life here. Like he doesn't really have much to be excited about. He's just working and that's it. And, and it's not a career job. Like, this is not the one that he wants to do for the rest of his life. And I've said to him, move, save up your money and go, follow her to the north of Italy. And he was like, yeah, no, I don't think I can do that. And I said, why? And he said, well, I don't know. Maybe I don't think we could have another chance with each other. And I said, well, you don't know that. And he said, no, but I think maybe. And I said, okay, well, whether it's her or not, the point is you're miserable here. You're not happy with your life here. And so you can continue staying in the misery, or you can do something about it, right? And he was like, no, I don't know. And then I asked him, do you believe in God? And he said, and we haven't really had that conversation before. And he said, I don't know, I'm not sure, like a little bit. And that is when I noticed, you don't have God, so you don't have hope. And I immediately, I was like, oh, okay, well, and I know this is maybe a little bit bad and shame on me, but I couldn't advise him further than that, because I knew without God, he had no hope. There was no hope. Allah is hope. With Allah is new possibilities, another option, magic, miracles, mercy, the opportunities that we don't understand and don't see. That is with Allah, but we don't have it without Allah. And so immediately I was like, oh, I see now why you feel so hopeless about your future, because you don't have infinite possibilities with you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And shame on me, maybe, I don't know, but I just couldn't advise him. So I was like, oh, I'm really sorry. But I mean, I still think you should go for it. And then he was like, yeah, I don't know. I got to go now because I got to go to work and whatever. Still, really nice guy. He's very young. And I'm like, wow, you've got so many possibilities ahead of you and you're a bright guy and whatever. But without God, that right there. And it was such a moment for me also to realize how lucky I am and how lucky you are, in case nobody's told you in a while, to have Allah, because it fuels hope. And it means that there's always a second and a third and a fourth and a fifth chance. There's always a 27th chance. There's always a 114th chance. It doesn't matter. Allah is always ready to catch you when you're ready to be caught. When you're ready to stop fooling around, Allah is always like, all right, let's go, let's do this. But you have to make that decision. And that includes trusting that Allah will be there always for you, and stop putting those limitations on him that we all do. Maybe I'm too bad. Maybe I've done too much bad. Maybe I've sinned too much. Maybe I don't know, whatever it is that people, maybe I'm too greedy in Allah's eyes or whatever. Stop. We're not talking about the neighbor who's the one who's got to catch you, the neighbor who's got limited understanding and perspective and knowledge and life. We're talking about the all-knowing, all-seeing, the one who brought us the guidance and life in Al-Quran. We're talking about the one who created every single one of us. We're talking about the infinite. Stop putting human restrictions on infinity, on the endless, on the limitless. Anyway, all of this, I kind of lost my track of thought there. All of this basically to say that the more you choose Allah, the more Allah chooses you. And with that comes the possibility of constantly being in tune to the limitless, meaning failure is never an option. You will always be caught. There will always be rizq with everything that you do, because Allah supports you. Allah wants you to succeed, because why you keep returning to him. You know the source of the success is not in you, is not in this dunya, is not in anything that might whisper in your ear, but is through Allah and through the worship of him and him alone. All right, my darling, I'm going to leave it there before I lose my train of thought again. I'm sure that this has already been a long episode already. Yeah, oh my goodness. Okay, I'm looking behind because I'm literally, if you're watching the video, I'm looking behind because then I can see like my camera and how long it's been filming for. Thank you so much for joining me another year here on Manifesting Muslimah. Inshallah, this year will bring a lot of new growth for all of us, and lessons and blessings, and closer to Allah, inshallah. There's going to be some different things happening this month already. I'm not going to share it with you today, but probably on Monday I'm going to let you know, because inshallah I'll be going on Umrah later this month. And I'm really excited about it. But of course, that means that there's going to be a little bit of a break in my usual routine. But again, I'm not going to give too much away right now. I'll talk more about that on Monday's episode. So make sure to listen in to Monday's episode. But until then, my darling friend, Happy New Year. And please don't forget to live in love.